Good afternoon. Thank you for all those that stayed to the end of the day. I think we're fairly compact in Bijou, and I can't believe we've got a massive auditorium like this. And I can't see any of you, so you'll like this, Kim, because you could just pretend you're completely on your own. Thank you for coming. My name's Ian Marshall. I'm Deputy Director of ICT Services at the University of Lincoln. I'm going to break with tradition. I'm not going to introduce my colleague straight away. I just want to give you a little anecdote. As I was writing this presentation in its early form, I was conscious that I was putting things down about value for money, about full-time equivalents, and almost treating the students as a commodity. And that's absolutely not what I want to talk about in terms of this presentation, because if we just think of them as commodities, that's missing the entire point of it. We thought we'd bring one of the students along, one of our associate developers, Kimberly Bird, and Kimberly will be talking in a few moments about the student perspective, because that's just as important, I think, as the stuff that the department get out of this. I would imagine if you've done these kind of talks before, your marketing department are very keen for you to do some publicity. We get a stack of 30 slides and lots of text that we're supposed to tell you. Trust me, we'll not put you through that. But I thought, as I just gave a brief introduction of what ICT Services looks like at the University of Lincoln, we'll just put a few of these images flashing up. ICT at Lincoln, well, we've got 15,000 students, 1,500 staff. So not huge, but I think we face exactly the same challenges that most of the universities do who are in the room. We're a department of about 80 people in total, and we're very, very centralised, actually. We're very, very proud of our university and the city as a whole. It's very, very beautiful, we think, and we've gone from strength to strength. When I started at university 16 years ago, I think we were 111th out of 114 in the league tables. The other year we were top 50, and I think we've just gone from strength to strength. So I think we are doing something right. So as you can see, beautiful city. If ever you visit us, I think this is the Magna Carta. It's a great pub. So if you ever come and see our beautiful cathedral, it's a great place to have a drink and have a bite to eat. So as part of the slide deck, I ripped nearly all of it out. But I just left two bits in that I thought was pertinent to what we were going to talk about. And I think it chimes very well with what we as ICT can actually contribute to those university strategic vision. And I'm teaching you to suck eggs. This is what every single one of us in this room are aiming towards, about the student satisfaction and obviously employment prospects are all metrics that we're trying to drive. And I'd just like to think that ICT can contribute, along with the rest of the university, towards these in particular. So I did lift those from the promotional pack in particular. Okay, I'm going to be talking quite a bit about how we employ students, but I just want to make sure that we've got the counterbalance in there. We do actually engage with students an awful lot that doesn't involve having to pay them, because they genuinely want to engage with us, contribute to the university and actually make a difference. So we have two-way workplace shadowing that goes all the way from the director downwards, and I think two-way is really important, so we get as much out of that relationship as they do from understanding what it's like to work in a work environment. We have students on our program boards, project boards, and they're actually involved from start to finish. So they're present at the requirements analysis gathering, implementation, and even user acceptance testing. So we try to get them involved. And sometimes we even have them on our selection panel, so they actually decide who we recruit. I will be talking, though, about, in particular, employing students. And there's two areas where we mainly use them. That's the associate developer, and that's what Kimberly is, but we also use them to staff our ICT front desk. They don't answer the phones. That's what we call our service desk. I know it's a subtle distinction, but our front desk is the walk-in section. That's entirely staffed by our students. We do use students as well outside of this 50k total for ad hoc things like moves, going out and asseting the ICT estate, ad hoc things. So there's a bit more investment above that, but that's kind of the standard investment that we make. I think what's really important is it's really quite modest. 50k is not an awful lot of investment, but we get a massive amount of value out of that, and hopefully that will come across as part of our presentation. I'm assuming that you've taken the time to come and listen to us because you're thinking of doing something similar, and perhaps you can use some of our experience to help you build a case. So what I've done is kind of presented it as a checklist. So I think you've got access to these slides at the end via the website. So if you want to reuse them and it helps you to make a case or just to celebrate what you're doing already, then that's a win for us. I'm assuming you're trying to learn from us. Of course, the other scenario is that you're doing it better than us and you just come to gloat at us. But I like to think the depth and the breadth of what we do is a little unique. I don't know what your organisation's like, but sometimes it seems like we have to fill out a 30-page options appraisal just to change the supplier of the milk for the coffee club. And we do drown in bureaucracy a little bit. So we did have to produce a business case to get the investment in using the student staff. Your organisation might be different. You may have a significantly larger budget. You might have a lot more freedom just to do this, and that's great if you can. But we had to make a business case. But when we did make the case, what we didn't realise is just how easy it really was. Because to be honest, we were banging at an open door because when we were asking for this investment, it was ticking so many boxes that it was an absolute no-brainer. And I hope what comes through the rest of the presentation is that it's simple, it's great for the department, we can do so much more than we could do before. It's great for the university because it ticks all those boxes in terms of the metrics they're trying to hit. And it's also great for the students, and obviously we'll get Kimberly's take on that. And to be honest, it's not a huge investment. It's 1 times FTE if you think about it. We didn't have to lose an FTE. This was additional investment that we put into the establishment. So it is honestly win-win-win, certainly for us. So before I go into perhaps the more boring side of things about how we benefit from it, we thought we'd have Kimberly talk about her experience. Now, the biggest presentation you've done before now was to 5 students in a seminar room as part of your course. So this is a little bit overwhelming, and you do look a pretty intimidating bunch, if I'm honest. So be gentle.
Thank you, Ian. Hi, I'm Kimberly Bird. I'm a student ICT associate developer at the University of Lincoln, and I'm also in my 2nd year of computer science. So this is my perspective. For starters, it's obviously amazing because we get paid. And we're poor students, so we love that already. But personally, my favourite part about this job is the fact that I get real-world experience, and I no longer have to do an internship or take a year out for a placement year. So, because I currently do 2 years in this job, which is amazing, and I'm also collaborating with different clients and making meetings with them and working with the people like I would in a real job. And I'm also working on a lot of interesting projects as well with the university, such as Find a PC, which is a website for the university students to find a PC throughout the library especially. And it's also award-winning as well. And it was recognised by the students and also the staff as an outstanding project. And there's also our current project called Navigate Me, which will help students and open day visitors navigate around the university as well. So that's amazing that I also get to contribute towards the university itself, because us students have a lot of ideas, and the university would probably prefer to listen to us rather than their staff, because we're the students. And I can also enhance my CV because I can start to learn new skills from this job, such as new programming languages, which would be so useful for when I actually want to apply for a job as well. And I obviously get to speak to you all, which is amazing because I don't know anyone else that gets to go to a conference like this. And I'm going to hand you back to Ian, but I'll be sure to answer any questions at the end.
Of course, the major one that she missed off was, of course, you get a chance to work with me, don't you? Yeah. So this is the checklist I talked about. I don't want it to appear too sort of too complicated. It's just an aide memoir for me, and I'm just trying to cover everything off. We might have already picked up on some of the things that Kim's already said, but This is what we found that we got direct benefits from, and if you want to celebrate this and just pinch some of them, that's great. Or if you want to make a case, that's great also. Lincoln has always had a bit of a difficulty in recruiting skills. I think it's partly because of the location. For a long time, I always said nobody ever goes through Lincoln to get to anywhere, and I think there's an element of truth in that. And also, university sector, we can't pay some competitive rates that people can get down in London and in the commercial sector. So what we needed to do was grow our own talent, and we realised that we've got a massive wealth of talent right on our doorstep, and it's there and it's in all of your universities. You just need to know how to tap into it. So what we do, we can identify that talent, we go through selections and interviews and everything else, so we still pick and select, but then we nurture and grow and develop. And then fundamentally, we often let them go on and they find a full-time or a part-time position once they finish studies with the university. So I think with the associate developers, there's probably 7 or 8 that have gone on to be employed in the university. And on the front desk, we've had people go on to do first, second and line support, and we've had 3 or 4 people that we've managed to get through that mechanism. Full-time staff are released to concentrate on other activities. I don't want to give the wrong impression that it sounds like perhaps we're letting the students do the mundane stuff, which releases our existing staff to do the more value-added stuff. Actually, that's the wrong way to look at it. The students are doing really value-added stuff, but it is a very cost-effective way of getting an awful lot of resource and providing a really good service. The other thing is quick win and larger transformational projects. I think quick wins, you'd think the clue's in the title, that it's something we could do really quick and agile. In reality, even quick wins, we're so resource bound and have got such a portfolio of projects we need to deliver, we can't even do some of the quick wins. So again, the agile nature of using the students has been fantastic in getting those quick wins. But also the larger transformational stuff, what they bring to the equation is a bit of creativity and are absolutely involved in those large projects. I mean, Finding My PC was so well received, and it's a big piece of work, lots of man hours to make it work, and it's one of the most popular things we've ever done, I believe. Quality is always exemplary. We get students who have still got that spark, still got that enthusiasm, they're highly motivated, and they get on with it and they produce some really, really good stuff. And also they come up, I think what you didn't pick up on is that students are involved right at the start of the requirements. In fact, they're given a brief, a broad steer, and come up with the requirements, and they come up with things that we would never have even thought about. So I think that's a really important point as well. I think the insights they provide, clearly, we're all here to support the students. We need to design services that you're going to consume, and meets your expectations by actually being embedded into that. That's what we do. We produce services that are fit for purpose. I'm sure all of you have waxes and wanes in your demand. That could be during the day. Literally, our front desk in particular, it's busy at certain times, it's dead at other times. But also there's those seasonal variations. We all know we've got hand-in times when we've got enrolment and clearing and all those big landmarks that we get. So that's always a challenge for us, trying to keep that level of staffing to meet the demand. This is one mechanism we can use. So it is a pool, a resource that we can call upon more. So we know if we're doing some moves that we can call in 2 or 3 more people. If you've got a big enough pool, that's much easier to manage. So it acts as a bit of a buffer to try and ease out that supply and demand sort of curve. Very useful technique. Making use of their particular talents. Now that's interesting. We recruit across all sorts of disciplines, from different academic disciplines. So we have people on our service desk who might be designers, fashion designers, for example, and they're great if we're doing some publication, and they've got an eye for design, and they can help us produce something that's a bit more eye-catching. We have people, we've done videos, tutorial videos, and we've used people from media studies to help us produce a video and web designs. So make use of what you get. You know, don't necessarily recruit to find somebody for that, but you'll find that these real pools of talent, and if you can find an opportunity to make use of them, then take it, and you might find you're doing something that you wouldn't have thought you would be doing. I think we've covered that one. Everybody knows about increasing the, enhancing the student experience. Obviously, the people who are being employed get a good view of the department and the university, but they go and tell their mates, and they produce services that are well received as well, and it's kind of a ripple effect. So it's probably bigger than just the pool of students that we actually employ. And fundamentally, students talk to students really well, as you would expect. I've got a 20-year-old daughter who's at university, and I sometimes have a great deal of difficulty in relating and understanding to her. So what chance have I got in trying to devise services for the student population? So it helps me, it triangulates, and basically I can the sounding board to get that. And on the front desk, the students are brilliant, because an awful lot of the people we deal with coming into the front desk are students, and they talk the same language. Improved reputation. I'll give you an example. This is not the award that Kimberley won. We won another award for student engagement, and what was interesting was that the student union nominated us for that, for student engagement. So they're the mouthpiece of the students, and it was really good to get that recognition. But more than that, the Vice-Chancellor is at those award ceremonies where ICT are being held up. And that can't be bad. I don't know of any ICT service that's held in really high regard. It seems to go with the territory that, you know, we're always the bad boys for turning these services off at the most inappropriate time. But to get that positive stuff at all those opportune times is always a good thing. I think you've talked about your employability prospects. No need to go into that one. The ongoing relationships, I think I covered that earlier as well. It is all about it's another piece of that puzzle to keep that dialogue going. And again, I said I wouldn't use this phrase, but they are excellent value for money. What we get for that modest investment is incredible in terms of a return on investment. Inspired and motivated staff. I think what we're finding is that some of the students come in are actually setting a higher standard than some of our staff that have been with us for 20 years. And it's back to that enthusiasm and motivation and everything else. So you've got to be careful with this. It can be scary for some staff, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But they are setting a standard, and I think, again, you should capitalise on that and embrace it and get the rest of your workforce to meet that. This isn't the flip side. I did actually, when I first wrote this, I did write concerns. Actually, there are no concerns really. It's just normal stuff, and there's absolutely no reason at all why you shouldn't think about doing some of the things that we've done. But I think there's a few considerations that I'd just like to share with you. First of all, always remember that the students are there to study. There's no way that we could jeopardise their ability to get the best grade that they possibly could get. At the end of the day, we limit them to, I think, 10 hours maximum work a week, which is okay. I mean, they'd go out into a McDonald's or a restaurant, and they'd be working those sort of hours. So that's doable. But we certainly don't want ever to be levelled at us that we're jeopardising their studies. So always bear that in mind. I think it's a no-brainer, and I'm sure you wouldn't do anything other than that. My other recommendation is to treat them as full-time members of staff. So, you know, invite them to the team meetings and keep them included in the emails that go out. It just means that they feel part of the department rather than just an add-on. I think I'll give you a slight caveat, just from consideration. I think you do need to make a couple of few extra considerations. By way of example, we let our front desk staff reset a password, but we don't let them change a password. Now, in my book, I've got no problem with them changing a password. They have to abide by the policies, they're trusted and they're employed as a member of staff. And there's no reason in my book why they shouldn't be allowed to change a password. But we want to protect them from any accusation. Nothing should be levelled against them, and we should never put them in that position. So, worst case scenario, a lecturer says, well, my password's changed. Why? I don't know. Oh, I bet it was him. I bet he's logged in as changed my password so we can look at the exam papers. It's not going to happen, but it's just about being considerate and making sure you're preempting and considering it. We have the same issue when we get our student staff to go out and take an asset register around the university. We wouldn't let a student go into an academics office alone to take the serial numbers of machines and things like that, because they might have something on their desk. It's just a bit of common sense. We always let them go escorted, but we'll let them into open access areas and things like that. So just add a bit of common sense to it, really. Also, you don't need to micromanage them. I think we thought that there'd be an awful lot of hand-holding. Actually, that's just the opposite. They get up to speed very, very quickly. We schedule our service desk, and they've got time slots when they come in, but very frequently, because they've had a rough night, or they've got a hangover, or they're not feeling very well, or there's a last-minute lecture, they can't make that. We don't actually have to contact us and find somebody. They're all part of these social groups, and they just ask their mates, can you cover for me? I'll do your shift if you do my shift. And that's fine. You know, it doesn't matter as long as we've got somebody covering it. So you don't need to micromanage them. Once they become fairly autonomous. We found this both on the front desk and as developers, that they get on with it. And they'll come to you if they need you, but don't worry too much about it. Very proactive. Another tip, always ensure you induct them as if they are a member of staff. Obviously, policy and procedure and what they can and can't do is really important. That needs to be reinforced because they might have access to information. But simple things like manual handling. I know it sounds daft, but on the front desk, a student might be asked to move a desktop PC from here to here. Health and safety, we have to have them inducted through manual handling. So we do all that thing as if they were a normal member of staff. And again, it just keeps absolutely everybody safe. Just like anyone coming into a job for the first time, there's occasionally a bit of naivety. It's not a big thing, but just be aware of it if you're employing students. It simply comes from the fact that they've never worked in an organisation of that size before. So we get people who don't realise their responsibilities, that if they've agreed to come in at a certain time, that they do need to come in, or they might be posting something inappropriate on social media about their work, and they don't realise that there are some responsibilities that go with being employed. So that's just something to wear. It's not a big thing, and it would be the same employing anybody fresh out of college or university. Well, I think the next one's quite a big one, actually. Be aware of the effect the students have on the existing staff. Something I didn't really think about when we first started it. When we first started employing students, and again, I'll use the example of the front desk, there was a lot of resistance. It's like, well, we can't let them do that. Well, they haven't been trained in it. They can't do that. They need to be supervised. Yeah, and there were lots of people trying to slow everything down. Actually, that soon went. When we actually gave them a bit of freedom to get on with it, I think they proved everybody wrong, and everybody was really surprised. So I think that we kind of got over that fairly quickly. I think the other side of the coin is, though, that they do such a good job that some of the staff can get concerned. It's like, are we going to lose our jobs because they're being paid half what we're being paid and they're doing just as good a job? Are they going to do more of this? Is it going to leave me without a job? And we started seeing some people who were actually quite concerned about it. On reflection, I'm wondering if actually the original response was don't give them too much power and knowledge. It was actually that they were scared that the existing staff were giving something away. This is all down to individual organisations. I don't know how you are, but I would suggest just have a think about, if you do employ students, don't forget your staff and what they might be thinking about the consequences of employing them. Big suggestion is to over-recruit. Some people won't make the grade and you wouldn't carry on. Some people have to drop out. There's always this demand that we need and this pool that we need. So a strong suggestion is get a nice, healthy group of people. Don't make it overly complicated and then call upon that resources. It gives you so much more flexibility. It means you don't have to go through multiple rounds of recruitment. And also keep a core of your staff and roll them over, because they end up being mentors to the new staff, new students that come in. And that really aids this, don't need to micromanage them, because the old hands tell the new hands what it's all about, and they just perpetuate. It's almost like we don't need to get involved, they just roll on. Occasionally, you know, we have to come back in and refocus, but they're very, very autonomous. And another big thing is don't constrain yourself by thinking about the need to recruit IT techies. You would think that associate developers, programmers, you would recruit from Department of Computing, School of Computing. And to be honest, yes, there's a little bit of that, but in terms of developing an app, there's more than just coding. You know, there's documentations, requirements analysis, and all sorts of disciplines that you can pull from various other areas. And on the front desk, we've used, as I said, I think I mentioned this before, we've used people from all walks of life. What we found on the front desk, we thought we need people with ICT skills. Actually, what we found is we don't need ICT skills at all. What we need is customer service skills, somebody who's good at talking to somebody and managing a situation. The level of ICT skills that we're talking about on the front desk can be learnt easily and they can be proceduralised. So actually, and most people are pretty IT savvy these days, so now we don't recruit for IT skills, we recruit for customer service skills, and the IT skills just come with it. So don't constrain yourself, that's a piece of advice. You might be pleased to know that I'm nearly done. Just one parting thought, and I think I'm trying to sum up what I started. And again, I like my little anecdote, so if I can share that with you. The associate developers were started by the IS manager at the time. It was his little pet project. He got very proud of it. It was very, very, very successful. He was an unusual chap. I won't tell you his name. It doesn't matter because you won't have met him, because he was the kind of person that thought you needed a passport just to go outside of Lincolnshire. And he tended to do my head in a little bit, but I've got to give it to him. His associate developer program has just worked really, really well. What he developed was an agile way of working, completely different from the more traditional way that we do things in terms of projects, the waterfall, Prince 2 project method, bureaucratic methodology. And he was really proud of it, and it absolutely worked. So he retired 6-8 months ago now, and strangely he actually asked me if I would oversee this group of associate developers, and it didn't make any sense to me because it was going under the portfolio manager. So why did he ask me to do it? It didn't make any sense. And he was really, it became apparent when I thought about it, he was really concerned that all that, what he perceived as the good stuff, that freedom, that creativity, that flexibility would be lost as soon as we started putting this massive wrapper of bureaucracy over it all. And he was absolutely right. So the parting thought I'd like to leave you with is that you ought to give them the wings, because if you don't, if you do try and just bring them into the collective, you'll be missing out on an awful lot of value, if I'm brutally honest, all that creativity. I've no idea how long I've been taking, because time seems to stand still when you're up here. So if we've got any time, I'm more than happy to take any questions, or you can call us, and I'm sure Kimberly will be more than happy to take any questions if we've got any time. Yes?
Well, it's for both of you, I think.
Okay.
I mean, Kimberly, how do you fit your 10 hours, if you do 10 hours around your studies, and how do you guarantee consistency of effort across projects that you're running over deadlines?
Well, let Kim answer first.
I do 8 hours a week during term time, and then I work about 37 when it comes to summertime and holiday time. And I usually do a couple of hours spread out throughout the week, and then I'll obviously put my studies first. So if I need to go less than 8 hours, my boss is more than happy to let me do that.
I think from our perspective, actually, the bigger projects, and I think the example you're working on is a bigger project, a bigger initiative. We don't necessarily have very, very fixed end dates. It is that much more wide open. I think as soon as we start creating that end date, that's when we start kicking in with all the stresses and strains, like we need to get more people. So it is a more relaxed way of doing it, but to be perfectly honest, it sounds like relaxed, no control. What we find is, I bet you do a lot more than 8 hours. Is that fairly true? Yeah. What you find is, coders in particular, they'll beaver away on the computer because, oh, I bet I could do that. And you get out much more hours out than they're actually contracted for, and then they just do it. But I think not having those milestones that we desperately try and hit all the time actually means that we've got that flexibility to extend it if we need it, but also compress it if we can. Oh, yep. How big a pool of workers do we have? That's a question, I think. I think from the front desk side of things, we've got about 15 that we call upon. We only have 2 on the desk at any one time, and we only get them for like a morning or an afternoon, so typically they'll get 4 or 5 hours a week, typically. The ad hoc things tend to happen a lot in holiday time, in fact, but that doesn't mean that they're not busy studying and preparing for an exam, so you've still got to be careful of that. But what we will then do when we're doing an office move or doing an asset, in fact we've spent 5 weeks assetting the entire university, and we're totally flexible. We will call at any one time. There's probably 4 or 5 of them out at any one time, but we do manage it and just make sure that we try and even it out, make it fair. And the associate developers, though, I mean, that is a fixed number because there needs to be a little bit of continuity. I don't know how many associate developers we've currently got, Kimberly?
I think we have about 7 or 8 at the
7
moment.
or 8.
Yeah.
But they're all sort of like working on slightly different projects and working at different time frames and different time scales.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you need to be a bit more relaxed about the delivery of these things and trust that they do get delivered still. And we've shown that they do get delivered. Yeah. Thank you. Hope it's been useful. If you want to reutilise anything, then please do. I think the slides are available off the website later. Thank you very much.